one another, on to the next.
Good day. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into First Take. Stephen A. Smith, Max Kellerman. I'm Molly Karen Rose. Fellas, it was a huge weekend in sports, not just NBA playoffs. I feel like every sport, we have a story for you, and we are going to cover all of it. So let's get after it. We start with Game 7. So despite a record-breaking performance by Luka Doncic, who scored or assisted on 77 against the Clippers, the most in NBA history by a player in a Game 7, it wasn't enough. Kawhi, Paul George, Marcus Morris, total team effort to clinch the series, a 15-point game win at Staples, and the Clips now move on to the Western Conference semis. They'll face Donovan Mitchell in the Jazz. Kawhi putting in that work, not just on the court, in the film room, too.
As we watch film and, we've seen that we're leaving each other on islands, mainly on the defensive end. Nobody's really selfish on the offensive end on this team. That's up to me and PG and playmakers on the offensive end not to be selfish, because at times you feel like you got to do it all. But, these games aren't won with just one or two great players. You need a whole 17 or 16 players that you have, guys on the bench clapping, letting you know what's going on, and the rotation players. So, I think we had trust at the beginning, but we just had to dial in on what we were doing.
What do you think you've been able to prove in this series and even last year in the playoffs?
I mean, nothing yet. We've been in the playoffs twice since I'm there. We lost both times, so nothing yet. You get paid to win, so we didn't do it.
All right, I told you about Luka. Let's talk Kawhi. He became the first player since Shaq in 2000 to score 30 points per game on 60% shooting in a single playoff series. What's even more impressive, his average shot distance was over 13 feet. Shaq's under 5. Stephen A. Mm-hmm. Are you confident in Kawhi and PG-13, that duo now?
Hell no. I mean, I congratulate them on getting past the first round. They handled their business. I had my reservations at first. I thought they were going. I picked them to win the series at the start of the series, Max. Then I thought they were going to get swept after losing the first two in L.A. Props to them. They came back, but then they go back to Los Angeles and they lose Game 5.
Yeah, the Mavs were supposed to be done winning.
Giving up 40 to Luka, and then they're going back to Dallas in Game 6, which I thought they would win. I thought they would win Game 6 and then be typical Clippers and lose in Game 7 because of the way the series had gone. But props to Kawhi Leonard for showing up, showing out, handling his business, reminding us the superstar talent that he is. Major, major props. And props to Paul George as well. Averaged 23 a game in this series. Shot better than 46% from the field in this series. He handled his business as well. Marcus Morris came up big time yesterday with some big time shots. I give him a lot of credit along with Reggie Jackson. But with all due respect, the Dallas Mavericks might have Luka, but they ain't the Jazz. That's the next team. Top 4 offensively, averaging better than 116 points per game. Top 3 defensively, yielding about 107 a game. In their first round playoff series against the Utah Jazz, they got not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 dudes averaging at least 17 a game. They got elite perimeters, defenders like Conley and Royce O'Neal on the perimeter. You've got Rudy Gobert, who may be Defensive Player of the Year in the interior. And, oh, by the way, they got a superstar, too, because Donovan Mitchell is on that level.
Facts.
Let me be very, very clear. I'm not speculating. I ain't guessing. I don't need to see. I've seen it. Donovan Mitchell is D-Wade 2.0. This brother is something special. And whatever you had to deal with Luka, you going to have to deal with Donovan Mitchell. So Kawhi and Paul George, look out, because Donovan Mitchell is coming. The difference between him and Luka is that Donovan Mitchell got help. I didn't even remember Bogdanovich, Conley, and Gobert and those boys offensively, okay? Oh, and Engel as well.
Ingles,
Clarkson.
Goes on and on.
That's right, Ron Clark. He has help. Luka did it. Don't get me started with you and Porzingis. I'm so done with him.
Yeah. His body won't hold up. That's the issue.
That's right.
His body won't hold up.
Well, he was in the game yesterday.
Yeah, but he has to always play himself back to where he was. He's never
Don't you worry. We're going to have more on that later in the show.
7'3" pedestrian. Never drives.
Here's the bottom line. You have to be confident in Kawhi and Paul George after what you just saw. I am. The real issue has never been Kawhi. Will Kawhi answer the bell? Has he had bad games in the playoffs? Everyone has, including Kawhi. Kawhi is one of the most clutch players who's ever played basketball. Look at his playoff resume. He is a two-time Finals MVP. Once as a 22-year-old baby, and later on as the best guy on the team in Toronto for two different franchises. And by the way, Stephen A., that's just the Finals MVP. If they gave out playoff MVP, he'd have some of those too. Because he's had playoffs where by then you go, that dude was the most clutch dude in the playoffs, including the year he won it with Toronto.
Okay.
The series against Toronto was not his most impressive series. He went crazy that whole time. Okay, Kawhi as a lead dude in the playoffs, you have to be confident in. He did it again. You know what he did? By the way, when I say he did it again, you know what he did? He talked about Steph Curry, 50-40-90. He went 60-40-90 for this 7-game playoff series. How about this one? Kirk Goldsberry had this on ESPN. Of all players ever to score 200 points in a playoff series, if you scored 200 points, probably went 7 games, right?
Yeah.
There are only 3 dudes until now who shot 60% from the field. 60. And Kawhi is a wing. Those shots, as we saw from the graphic, are coming from distance. Shaq wasn't a wing. Kareem wasn't a wing. Bernard King. Stephen A. remembers a sweet shooting dude. Bernard. Those are the only 3 ever to have 200 points, 60% for. Kawhi is fine. So the question is Paul George. Do you have confidence in Paul George? What did we see from Paul George? He's played in this series consistently better than he's played in high leverage moments throughout his career in the playoffs. Playoff P, if anything, is Porzingis now, not Paul George. Let's be honest. Is that a second banana who you can win a title with? Yep. From what I saw, that dude played well enough to be the second dude. He has to keep that up. The Jazz are a whole lotta. Right now, you make me pick, I'll take the Clippers because they have Kawhi and Paul George.
I'm not doing that. You're going to have to show me you can beat the Utah Jazz. I think the Utah Jazz are the best team in the Western Conference. I think they'll beat Phoenix or Denver. And I definitely think they'll beat the Clippers. You got to show me you can take these brothers out because I believe in these Utah Jazz, because I believe in Donovan Mitchell. Everything is predicated on Donovan Mitchell. If he's not playing, all bets are off. But with him on the court, with the Utah Jazz, they are something special to behold. Quinn Snyder, he was a Coach of the Year candidate and well-deserved. Rudy Gobert, Defensive Player of the Year. As long as he ain't going against Joel Embiid, he all right. Okay, not to say that Jokic can't give him a little something too. I understand he can, but I'm just saying Joel Embiid is a different monster because of his athleticism and his abilities. With Jokic, he can't jump onto a curb, but somehow, some way, nobody can stop him. I've never understood
Passing
that.
ability is.
I'm just saying that's not you. If you're a defender against Jokic, you can't worry about his passing.
That's what I mean.
I'm talking about a straight up defense, a straight up, like manning up against them.
No doubt.
If you pass the ball to somebody else, that's not your concern. I'm just talking about what he did.
Does Gobert want to follow him out to the 3-point line?
Giving them 30. Well, if he had to, yeah, he could pull Gobert away from the basket. That would make that series interesting. I understand that. But in the end, I'm looking at the arsenal. These brothers for Utah, they can play it slow, they can play up tempo, and they hit threes.
Yeah.
They shoot and defend.
Threes. It's going to be interesting, no doubt.
Can't wait for
but
the series.
I got Utah. I got Utah winning that series.
Guess
By the
what?
way,
So does Vegas.
Mike Conley's hamstring, not so great. So, Donovan Mitchell needs everything you said is true about the team. He still needs a second banana like Kawhi has, who can get his own shot, hook up his teammates. You still need that.
All right,
and
guys.
Conley's not going to be that.
We'll get into this a little later.
Yeah.
All right, maybe.
We disagree.
Let's leave it there.
We disagree.
But the Jazz have the best odds to win the West. That's according to Vegas. And then the Clippers second best. All right, we'll keep it rolling, guys. Bucks Nets game 2. That is tonight, 7:30 Eastern. 43 seconds into the game, a huge loss. James Harden re-aggravating that hamstring and is done for the night. The Nets still found a way and are up 1-0. As for tonight, Harden will be out again. Here's his coach, the Hall of Famer Steve Nash, with more details.
To be honest with you, tightness and most importantly is he's out for the next game. So we're preparing for tomorrow night as we ended up playing last night, and that's our focus. For James, we obviously are desperate for him to return, and he's a huge piece of what we do in our team. But at this point, I think it would be all guesswork to really understand. He's had such a little, up and down recent history with it that it's really hard to predict.
Are you hopeful of seeing him in this series at all?
I'm definitely hopeful of seeing him. Like I said, it's tightness, and we've had this history before, which was very difficult to kind of, like I said, predict how it will go. So I'm very reluctant to kind of make any prognosis, but obviously we're really hopeful that he heals quickly and can move past it.
Max, let me just say this really quickly before you get. Please, no more superstars getting hurt. I cannot take this.
Short off season.
I know, but it's like one after the other.
Yep.
Hopefully he will be okay. I know it can't go tonight. But Max, how confident are you that the Nets can get this done without Harden at 100%?
Oh, without Harden, it's going to be really tough. The Nets with Harden are a super duper team. Harden's the most important player on the team. He's the one you saw that when Harden's healthy, they win. They almost always win. When he's not, sometimes KD and Kyrie lose. They don't win as much as you would think. Playoffs are a little different, but Harden is the most important player on the team. Without him, they're not a super duper team. They're just a team with some stars. But you know who one of those stars might be? And this is kind of the least talked about theme so far from these playoffs, the resurgence of Blake Griffin.
Yeah.
Blake Griffin was probably the difference in game one. If this dude gets back to most of what he was, remember, he couldn't dunk for a year and a half, couldn't even dunk it now. Oh, yeah, that looks like Blake Griffin. If Blake Griffin gets back to being an all-star or an almost all-star, which he's kind of playing at right now it's a different story. I mean, the Nets are so loaded that maybe even without their most important player, they could do it. But I can't say I'm confident that they would beat the Bucks. The Bucks missed a lot of open shots for the Nets to win that first game. They did get a big game for Blake Griffin. Can you count on Blake to do that reliably throughout a playoff series? I don't know the answer to that question. I would just say, with James Harden, they're smoking everyone. AD's hamstring or groin, that's like a hamstring. Look what happened. Harden, with this same issues, missed 20-something games this year. There's a good chance Harden misses this series. Then Blake has got to step up if the Nets want to win.
I'm confident because they have Kevin Durant. I'm so sick and tired of this James Harden, Kyrie. Everything in Brooklyn is about Kevin Durant. Everybody else is a sidekick. It's no knock against the future Hall of Famer and prolific scoring champion that is James Harden. It's no knock against Mr. Box Office himself, the best show in basketball, which is Kyrie Irving, because the brother is just a showstopper. It's just the reality that Kevin Durant is on another level. When healthy, he is the best player in the world. He is that lethal, the best offensive player in the world. It is just that simple. He is that lethal. Now, I'll tell you this. Here's another reason I'm not worried. Yo, Chris Middleton, how you doing, bro? What's going on, Chris Middleton? How's everything going, man? I mean, my name is Stephen A. We cover the game of basketball, even though people like Max look brilliant right now because he said there ain't no big three in Milwaukee. I'm here to tell you, Chris Middleton, there was supposed to be a big three. You were supposed to be a part of that. 6 for 23. Really? With no James Harden. You got Joe Harris looking like the second coming of Ray Allen. You got Blake Griffin. All right, I told you the brother could play. He just didn't want to play in Detroit. That's what that was all about. He just didn't want to play.
The biggest story in the NBA. No one's talking about right now.
He just didn't want to play, diving for loose balls on the floor, energizing the crowd in Brooklyn like Dennis Rodman did at the Palace in Auburn Hills,
Blake owes
or even at the
Detroit money.
Silverdome.
Blake owes Detroit money. He owes Detroit money.
He didn't want to play. He didn't want to play there. I knew Blake Griffin could still play. He didn't want to be in Detroit. He was playing for nothing, and that's what we're seeing right now because he's interested in playing basketball again. Okay, don't tell me a 6'9" former Skywalker can't even dunk for 2 years. You ain't interested in playing. Well, he could dunk. He didn't want to play. Okay, but Chris Middleton, back to you. My brother, Milwaukee has no chance in this series if you don't show up. And if you could show up against Miami, how come you can't show up against Brooklyn, bro? How come you can't show up against Brooklyn? What's the problem? Drew Holiday, last time I checked, you get paid. What's up? I mean, what you gonna do? So I'm just looking at it, and Giannis Antetokounmpo, 34 and 11, just three times. but 0-3 from the free throw line. That stuff matters against Brooklyn because they don't miss free throws.
Yeah.
They don't miss free throws. This is how you got to pay attention to this
Chris
kind of stuff.
Middleton going to wind up in the Hall of Fame one day?
Well, in today's Hall of Fame, actually,
Do you think Middleton's going to make?
He got a chance.
Middleton going to wind up in the Hall? Middleton ain't going to the Hall of Fame.
Max, he got a chance. The Basketball Hall of Fame, Max?
Yeah, okay.
I mean, come on now. It ain't hard to get in there. Don't get me started with that. Ain't that
Let me just
hard?
go on the record. I don't think Middleton's making the Hall of Fame.
All right.
I don't think Drew Holiday's making the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
Kyrie Irving, James Harden, and KD are all getting in. If there's a way to get in before the first vote, they'll get in before. You might as well just put them in now.
All right.
There are levels to this. How are you going to call that a big three compared to this?
Stop. No, I didn't say it's a big three compared. I'm saying you're supposed to have a version of your big three. In other words, if Chris Middleton shows up the way he did in Miami, hitting shots that he's supposed to hit, you still ain't Kyrie. You still ain't James Harden, but you're doing your job. And see, that's what you got to pay attention to. See, a lot of times you'll sit up there and you'll look at somebody on their perch. Like the big thing, we know KD, Kyrie, and James Harden on another level. We get that. But the point is when you dissect one team going up against another, it really comes down to everybody doing their job. If they do their job offensively, because the Nets ain't in a top 20 team defensively.
No, they missed a lot of open shots, the Bucks.
If they do their job, then it's interesting. Remember, without Jaylen Brown, Boston was able to steal a game because guys showed up one night and helped Jason Tatum.
Let me put it this way. Is Chris Middleton the second best player on a championship team or the third best player on a championship team?
I think Chris Middleton at his best could be a second best player.
But the reason he's Chris Middleton is because he's not always like that. He's not Klay Thompson.
All right, Max.
Klay Thompson's always that.
But then, Max, then be quiet about the rest of the series then because he's never going to do that. Right. What I'm trying to say, I'm saying, don't talk about it then.
No. What I'm saying
is this is what you need to do to win.
What I'm saying is two things. One, without James Harden, it's different because we saw that we have to acknowledge the Bucks also didn't shoot it well. They had looks that they didn't hit. And two, you say KD is the best player in the world, and then you have to quickly say offensively. And you know why you have to say that? Because pre-Achilles, if he was playing like that, we just say he's the best player in the world right now because his defense was crazy too. He got to be a very high-level defensive player. He will still accept the tough defensive assignment. He just doesn't do it very well right now. That's the part of his game that is not recovered fully.
No.
So that's why you're not saying he's the best player in the world.
Let me educate you about something. When you are so prolific offensively, you want to see a team that cheats defensively? It's the team that knows they could close their eyes, have one hand tied behind their back, and they can still drop 120 a night.
Is that the Warriors?
No.
Because he played defense. He played high-level defense on the Warriors.
But you got to remember, Steve Kerr, different coach. Not D'Antoni with Nash.
You're saying D'Antoni's not known for his defense?
How about that? The point that I'm trying to make to you is that's what is a different system and it's a different way that they play. And not only that, you got a talk on your front line like Draymond Green that's yelling out assignments and backing you up. They know what they're doing. These brothers are learning on the fly. I'm talking about Nash and D'Antoni. Defensively, I'm talking about. Offensively, they know what the hell they're doing.
It's affecting KD's defense.
But also you got KD coming off the Achilles, and when you playing defense, you're at the mercy of somebody else. And sometimes you don't want to take that chance again.
No doubt.
Because you know you can drop 120 in your sleep. I'm saying you can take.
Are you willing? Therefore, are you saying KD's the best player in the world? Period. Right now.
Yes, I feel that way.
Period. Not just offensively.
I feel that way. But let me tell you this, because I want to get to my point. I want to get back to Middleton. All I need Middleton to do, Max, is shoot 45%. That's it, Max. You make sure you take anywhere from 18 to 20 shots a game. You hit about 45% of your shots. That is not too much to ask for Chris Middleton. He's done that more often than not. That's not a lot to ask. And that's what we're talking about here. It was a game until they pulled away in the fourth quarter. It was a game. The point is that you got the pieces and listen, and don't tell me about big with Milwaukee in terms of playing big. The only guy that plays big in the low post area is Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Drew Holiday.
Lopez certainly ain't going to be that dude.
If James Harden is playing, now they have a problem defensively because against a bigger guard, Drew is not the same as against a smaller guard, right? Yeah. And he can't guard Kyrie and James Harden at the same time. Who can guard those guys anyway? Once you take James Harden off of the Nets, Blake Griffin has to keep doing this for them to beat Milwaukee. I'm not sure they can beat them without James Harden.
Here's the deal. Game 2 is tonight, 7:30 Eastern. We'll learn a lot. We'll revisit this subject tomorrow. Okay. Sound good?
I'm telling you, Kevin Durant can take a nap and drop 40.
Yeah, we
You
all
take a
know
nap
that.
and
He's
drop
Kevin Durant.
He's Kevin Durant.
Okay.
You know who he is.
We know who
You know who he is.
Get familiar.
Okay.
Biggest NFL story of the weekend. How about Julio Jones finally being traded to the Titans? That was a sleeper. Former wide receiver Keyshawn Johnson here to talk about the fit of Julio in Tennessee. Joel Embiid played well, but Ice Trey served up a Game 1 L to the Sixers. How